What's up, guys? Welcome back to Building a Better Boom Bap Beat. I'm drummer Miles, and today we're going to work on what I think is the easiest way to make a little key group instrument. So what I've got today is I've got my Korg Minilogue synth, and I'm going to play a couple of different single notes and turn them into instruments. So I'm just at my main sampler and have my monitor open up to a pretty simple pad keyboard in the Korg. You know, I'm making sure I'm around -9, -5 decibel on the MPC. And I just run direct stereo out of my stereo outs on this Minilogue into the stereo ins on the MPC Live. Alright, so I'm going to take a C. I'm going to record just a long sustained C note right here. So I'm going to arm. Now, if I head over to menu and my main, and I'm going to go to a Keygroup program, I'm going to go back to menu, program edit, sample, and I'm going to select the sample I just made. Now I've got that stretched across the keyboard. Now you'll notice it's not a very perfect instrument yet, so I'm going to go over some of the ways I like to liven up that instrument. So right now we're dealing with what would essentially be like a keyboard, electric piano, a pad. So first I'm going to go over to my filter envelope, and I'm going to give it some release so that it has a little bit of sustain after you let go of the note. Now I'd say a regular piano is something around like 82, something like that, you know. So I'm usually in that area. You might want a little less. Now you can also obviously change the attack here of the whole instrument. If you want it to slowly evolve in. You've also got your decay and your sustain. And in the MPC, this page works much the same as any other type of synthesizer. You've also got your filter, your baseline filter, which you can, you know, you can give it like a low pass filter with a lot of resonance, make it more plucky. And if you wanted it to be kind of a pluck, you could put the decay out and lower the sustain. See, now it's more like a pluck. If you wanted to do an arpeggiator or something like that, you could do that. So, you know, you can also actuate the filter, and that helps, especially if you're doing like a bass, you know, and you want a little bit of a whomp whomp. Anyway, you can see how you can take basically any sound you want, turn it into any instrument you want. So the filter, you can get a whole lot out of the filter. Obviously, you can pan and adjust the velocity baseline. You can pan it out to the left, to the right. And especially if you're layering up multiple layers of something like this, you know, maybe you want to put one on the left, one on the right. Let's show you how that would work right now. I'm going to sample in just any old other instrument on this Korg over here. Just another C. Now if I go back to that program, I can load that other note in there, and I'll have a double layer. Now watch if I put one to the left and one to the right. Pretty nice. Now let's. I'm gonna go back to just the first sound we were using. Obviously, you can then come over here and do whatever you want with the effects. Some fun ones, you know, you can play with to really make an interesting instrument sound totally different is like the ensemble. There's lots of different ways you could do this. So ensemble's great. Chorus is also similarly you can get a lot of fun out of. You know, there's the fuzz wah, which can really change an instrument. Now maybe you want to apply the pitch wheel or the mod wheel to something on your instrument. So you'll go to Program Edit, you go over to the LFO Modulation tab, and down here, Controller Mod, you've got your pitch bend, which you can alter. See? You can change how much of a note range it bends. So that's like real far. And you can also set the modulation wheel to attach to the LFO you choose, which I don't have anything on yet, so let me turn on the filter LFO. So now it's off. Now I'm turning it on. Turning it back off. See, so you can set up your mod wheel to run. Same thing, you can set how much of a value it'll attach to, how much it'll change. But let's say if you don't do the mod wheel with the LFO and keep it on 0, you can just put on a standard LFO right here as well. So like, I'm going to put a pitch modulation on there. And this is the rate and the wave and whether or not it's BPM synced up above it. So right now it's at 64, it's not synced. I'll set it to a 1 of 1 and do the pitch. So now you can hear every bar. It's changing pitch to that degree. And I can obviously speed that up. You know, if you want that LFO, you know, if you want the like lo-fi piano, obviously they just have a very slight pitch wobble. Okay, you've also got the filter you set up over here on the filter envelope page. If you want it to be attached to the LFO, you can do that here, or to your mod wheel, you can do that here. You can do the amp, so it's got kind of a tremolo effect. Same with panning. And then you've got the effects chain here, which you can also just add to them here. Now, another thing you might want to try to do is, let's say you have a shorter sound and you want to make it into a longer instrument. So I'm going to go to menu, I'm going to go to my sampler, I'm going to pick another key part. Now let's say that was all I had for that. Let's say the only piece of that I had was this. That one little C. So this is how you would, if you were chopping from a sample, if you were taking a stab, something like that, you can loop your sample so that you can get a longer note out of it. So let me just record a short note here. So I've only got that, right? So now, if I make a new instrument, key group, make a new key group, and I go to my program edit, sample, and set the sample to the new sample we just made. So you'll notice that now I have this note, but it's a very short note. So if I wanted to play a long chord, I wouldn't be able to. Just all cuts out. So if your note's too short, you can go to menu, go to sample edit, and find the sample we're dealing with, and we're going to set up a loop for it. So I'm going to bring my end back to here. Let me zoom way in. Now what you want to do is, if you zoom way in on the waveform, the best thing to do is try to get as close to the same parameter as you can. So what I'm going to get is where my sine wave is crossing the center line from the bottom to the top. And I'm going to go as close to that as I can with my ending here. So it's on an upswing right at the crossing point, okay? Right in the middle of this consistent part. Now I'm going to hit loop over here, and you'll see this new blue box shows up. So if it's right now, it's just going one direction. If you can see, there's the loop icon, and when you click it once, you get one arrow, and that means it'll just loop in one direction over and over again. If you hit twice, you'll see it goes back and forth. That's ping pong. So it'll go to the end, and then it'll come back, and then it'll go forward. Or you can have it run backwards. You know, the loop will come, go back, go back, go back. So for the purposes of this, I'm going to set it up to go just forward for now, although sometimes ping pong is what you want for this. So let me, then I'm going to hit my Q link over to the third light on sample edit, or you can also select loop and do it with the main knob. And I'm going to roll my loop point. Let me start going. If you'll see, my start was just running with my loop there. If I moved my loop, my start went as well. What you want to do is turn off loop lock, and then you can move them independently. My mistake there. So I'm going to move my loop window down to around here, zoom in on that, and remember we were on the upswing of the center crossing point of the sine wave. So I'm going to try to find a spot where we're on the upswing. Right about there. Now you're obviously going to have to do some fine-tune adjustment at this point. So what you do is come back out, you know, scroll, zoom way out maybe, see your whole thing, and you can run it. Now you see how we have a little bit of a clip. So we want to find where we're clipping and move to where it won't be clipping. So I'm going to go to the top of the loop first, and I'm going to just do some fine-tune adjustments here with the bottom Q link knob. Okay, you can hear one of them's gone now. So now I'm going to go to the end and do again, just a slight fine-tune. There we go. Now I don't hear any clicking, I don't hear any clipping. Just a little bit of a consistent sound. Okay? So if you wanted, you could ping pong that and it helps with that even more. You can hear how it's going. Now, for some instruments, you might want one. For some instruments, you might want with the other. Really is up to you, given the circumstance. But so now you'll see if I go back to my menu, go back to main, now I can hold a long chord here. Now, if you wanted to clean that up a little more, one I love to use for these instruments a lot of the time is the diffusion delay. If you're, especially if you say the pace I'm playing that at is, what is that, about, 80, 82 BPM, something like that. So if I go to 82 BPM here, and I take my diffusion delay over to like Melodic Companion or something like that, one of the ones that's not too out there, bring down the feedback, bring down the diffusion a little bit, bring down the mix. It'll help thicken up this instrument a lot. Yeah, so there's a nice sounding instrument now. And again, now you can do whatever you want with it. Now you can save that into your, you can name that, let's name it Plucky Roads, right? And if I go to the pencil icon here and I just save current program, I can save that anywhere I want. And now that Keygroup program can be reopened in any project I want, and all it consists of is one sample and some setting requirements and effects chains. Now, what I find incredibly valuable about that is we all know about the auto sampler function. We all know if you run in the MIDI, you can control the MIDI from the MPC. Those are great, but I don't see a lot of guys talking about doing it this way, which to me saves a ton of space in your MPC. So you're not sampling a note each octave or a note on every note in the note range. So for example, if you open up the stock MPC key groups, just the key group takes about 15 to 20 seconds to load and about that much extra space inside the brain of the project. And that's not a huge deal, but to me, for most cases, this is more than, good enough. I don't necessarily need the whole range of the keyboard to sound great. So obviously, if you took one from the middle range, like I usually try to take around the middle range of the keyboard. Obviously, if you take one from the middle range, if I go all the way down, it doesn't sound great. It starts to sound fairly mechanical and robotic. Or again, likewise, if I go all the way to the top, it doesn't sound great. But the solution for that really is if you want a high-toned chime instrument or if you want a low bass instrument, sample from a lower range on the keyboard. Sample down here. If you sample down on the lower range, you'll have a much nicer sounding low range, vice versa for the high range. Now, one thing to note when you're saving your key groups is any effects you put in here on the main inserts and anything you do in Program Edit will save in that key group. However, any effects you add on the returns as a send will not save in the key group, and you will have to reset that on each program. And I guess that's just a safety, assuming you might load it into a program and it would override whatever send information you had already set up in that program. So that's fine. I would just say if you're making these instruments, you're looking at putting one or two, maybe three effects on and try to put them in the inserts for the time being. Maybe once you're mixing out your beat and you have this instrument in use, you go over to the sends and use them how you'd like to. Anyway, I just wanted to give a brief overview of a way that I don't see a lot of people mentioning of a much quicker, much easier way to make a single instrument on the MPC that you can save and reuse as many times as you want out of any sound you can think of. Another reason I love this feature is, say you have a mono synth that you love the sound on, or for example, the Minilogue, it can only do 4 notes in unison at once. Well, now once I've moved it over here, I can play, 5 note, 8 note, 10 note chords, as much, whatever I want. Anyway, I hope this helped you guys. This was just a quick tutorial to show you a way that I think is best to make a quick little instrument, personalize an instrument, save it onto your MPC. And frankly, I'd love to see what you guys make. Leave comments. I'd love to see us all start a kind of online trading marketplace for this stuff. It doesn't seem like Akai is going to make one of their own, so I don't see why we don't all make one together and just start sharing our key groups with each other. I really appreciate you guys checking these out, and I appreciate all the continued support. I will have another episode within a week or so. If you want to support, feel free to check me out at patreon.com/drummermiles, one word. Otherwise, be good to each other, take care, and have a good one.